They're training Ukraine on that. So really the emphasis now is becoming on the artillery fight. Now, Dave, let's move to the south, where we still have a very, very static line overall. North of Mariupol in the southern Donbas, there's a line heading towards the Dnieper River. On the other side of the Dnieper River, you have the Russian forces near north of Kherson, trying to hold on with a very tough line, Ukrainian line between Mykolaiv and Kherson. And the main thing that's still there is, as we talked about several weeks ago now, is Mariupol, the Azovstal. Azovstal is still holding out. Apparently, has still. First of all, great news was there was an evacuation of the civilians that were in there. So that was something positive that came from the UN mediation, I guess, them and the International Red Cross. The fighters in there, I think, repelled right before Victory Day an assault inside the plants. So they're still holding on, but there's been multiple bombings and artillery barrages that have apparently collapsed a couple of key parts of the bunker system. I think 2 hospitals now have been hit. Soldiers are running out of basic medical supplies, are gone. Who knows what the real situation is on food and water. But as we talked about earlier, that this area doesn't seem to be breakable from an assault perspective. I think Russia left 2 battalion tactical groups in Mariupol, and maybe some troops there to supervise cleanup. But it seems like that garrison is holding, and they're still holding out hope that there can be a prisoner exchange where these troops get sent to a third country for the duration of the war, and some Russian prisoners get released. But that's what's happening in Mariupol, and then the line around Kherson, and one of the really tough things that's happening for people inside Kherson and these occupied cities is the potential pending annexation of these territories into Russia. They were trying, rumor had it, they were trying to organize some sham referendums, and those have not even been successful. There's posters up around Kherson where some level of resistance is forming to the collaboration government, which there are some local collaborators from pro-Russian parties that politicians, but very tense. A lot of people apparently who are supportive of Ukraine or have military background or connections to the government are being abducted and tortured. And it seems like with the Russian political elite that have traveled down there, that they're very anxious to declare Kherson, parts of Zaporizhia and the Donbas part of Russia. And here's why that's important, because Russian nuclear doctrine says that Russia will not attack anything, will not use nuclear weapons unless the existence of their state is threatened. And by incorporating some of these territories into Russia, as illegal as it may be and unlegitimate among most of the people in the world's eyes, that could provide some pretext for escalation should Putin choose to do that. But what are your thoughts on what's going on in the South, Dave, and the fight down there?
I'm just really impressed with you, with the Marine Brigade and Azov and Mariupol. And when Russia launched that last major offensive at the steel plant, and committed a lot of combat power, a lot of artillery, and a lot of their air power, you really had a feeling that it was ultimately going to break. and enable Russia to actually enter and start clearing it out. And it didn't happen. So just the will of those units, those Ukrainian units there, that the hold off probably Russia's best coordinated assault, really so far, and repel it, and not only repel it, but reestablish their security and defensive posture. But like you said, that came at a really significant cost in terms of all their classes of supply. And if you see the pictures, because those guys have internet access still, right? Their phones are still working, and you've seen pictures of them. They're looking rough. It is really rough, and that's the one thing I think about when I think about Mariupol is how long can the human will withstand? And they've gone 77 days now. But man, it's rough, very rough for them, right? And so the violence at the tactical level is still incredibly violent. But on the flip side, Russia has really looking at two PTGs, some Chechens, and some Russian Spetsnaz in and around the city. They don't really control the city. Russia really has no significant control over the city at this point. And I think ultimately it just comes back to, I think Russia is going to redefine their strategic aim, and moving some combat power around to do that again. So I think they're holding out fine there. Further west, acknowledge a nuclear doctrine. Yeah, go.
Before you move on from Mariupol, I wanted to just reflect on a few things there. I think from a strategic level, it's hard to understate the significance of that garrison. And if you look back through history, remember the Alamo, or the 300 at Thermopylae. This is one of those chapters in military history that if that garrison had not done and continues to do what they continue to do, this war would have really been a lot different. You could have seen a huge envelopment potentially materialize of the entire joint forces command that the Ukrainian army had there, and the fact that so many forces were pinned down for so long and took so many casualties in Mariupol, and still have to worry about that garrison is hugely significant, not just militarily, but I think morally, spiritually for Ukrainian people, where this will be I think a foundation of Ukrainian identity going forward in a way that's extraordinarily powerful. And I think these soldiers definitely know that. They know that what they're doing could well cost them their lives, but it's going to probably play a huge role in saving Ukraine as a country and establishing the future. And it's massive, and it's something that I think it's really hard for us to wrap our heads around, even those who've served before. You never know what you're going to do in a situation until you face it. But we all hope that we would just come close to what they're doing in that situation. And we're still looking for a miracle there. And we know that President Zelensky and his administration are really working on that as one of their top priorities, even though militarily now the significance of what's happening is gone down a lot. I think the moral, spiritual significance of it keeps going up for Ukraine. So, but it's a huge. It wasn't captured by May 9th. There was no big parade there, as a lot of people thought there would be. and it's still holding out. I think this goes towards what we'll talk about at the end, which is May 9th, big letdown, Victory Day, and President Putin's, I think, crashing